The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It fell in silver sheets, turning the narrow streets of Greyford into rivers of reflection. Lena walked fast, her delivery shift finally over, her jacket soaked and her hair sticking to her face. She wanted nothing but warmth, quiet, and maybe a cup of cheap instant coffee. Then she saw it. A black leather wallet lying in the gutter, rainwater sliding over it like a secret refusing to drown. At first, she walked past it, because people in Greyford didn't pick up what wasn't theirs. But something about it felt wrong. Too expensive. Too deliberate. She hesitated, then crouched down. The wallet was heavy, soaked but intact. When she opened it, her breath hitched. Inside were crisp $100 bills, a black credit card with no name, and an ID card that didn't look like anything she'd ever seen before, metallic, engraved, with a crest she couldn't recognize. And a photograph. A man, maybe mid-30s, sharp suit, dark eyes. He wasn't smiling. He didn't look like someone who lost things. Lena looked around. The street was empty except for the sound of the rain and the faint hum of traffic blocks away. "Okay, this is weird," she whispered, sliding the wallet into her bag. She planned to take it to the police the next morning. That's what a good person would do, right? But later that night, as she made herself a cup of coffee, she noticed something strange. Her phone buzzed, no caller ID. She didn't answer. The call came again, and again. Finally, she picked up. "Hello." Silence. Then a deep voice. "You have something that doesn't belong to you." Lena froze. "Who is this?" "You shouldn't have opened it," the voice said. "Now it's too late." The call disconnected. Her hands shook. She looked at her bag, the wallet still inside. Her heart pounded so hard, she could hear it echo. Outside, through the fogged window, she thought she saw something, headlights. A car. Then another. Black cars. They stopped in front of her small apartment building. Doors opened. Men in suits stepped out, umbrellas snapping open in the rain. Lena whispered to herself, terrified. What did I just get into? The sound of rain hitting metal echoed through the narrow street like a warning. Lena's fingers tightened around her mug as she peered through the curtain. 3 black cars. Engines running. Windows tinted. Men in dark suits stepped out, one by one, moving with eerie precision. No one spoke. No one hurried. They simply stood there under the rain, facing her building. Her pulse quickened. "No, no, no," she whispered. She turned off her kitchen light, plunging the small apartment into shadow. The only light came from the flicker of a street lamp outside, cutting across her living room like a blade. Then a knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks at the door. Her chest tightened. She didn't move, didn't breathe. A voice came through the wood, calm and deep. "Miss Lena, you have something that belongs to Mr. Caro." Mr. Caro. The name sent a shiver down her spine, though she had never heard it before. She stayed silent, praying they'd leave. But the man outside sighed, not impatiently, but as though he already knew what she was thinking. "You can make this easy," he said, "or you can make it complicated." Something in his tone wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Lena's eyes darted toward her bag. The wallet was still there, its presence somehow heavier now, like it was aware of the chaos it had caused. Suddenly, bang. Her front door shook violently. Someone had kicked it once, not to break it down, but to remind her that they could. Lena gasped and grabbed her phone, dialing 911 with trembling fingers. No signal. "What?" she whispered, panic rising. She looked at her phone again, no service. Outside, one of the men turned his head toward the 3rd car. The back door opened slowly, and out stepped the man from the photograph. He didn't rush. He didn't speak. He simply looked up toward her window, and for the first time, their eyes met. Even through the glass, even through the storm, Lena felt something strange. He wasn't angry. He wasn't afraid. He looked curious. Her breath caught. There was something magnetic, commanding, almost dangerous about the stillness of his face. He raised his hand slightly, a simple gesture. The men nodded. Two of them walked to her door again. Lena's heart pounded so hard, she could barely think. She ran to the back window, but there was nowhere to go. Her apartment was on the second floor, her fire escape slick with rain. "Please," she whispered to no one. "Just let this be a mistake." A moment later, the sound of metal breaking filled the air. Her lock snapped. The door swung open, and standing in her doorway was one of the men, drenched, expressionless, holding an umbrella. Behind him, the man from the photograph stepped inside, calm as if he owned the air she breathed. Lena froze. "You shouldn't have opened it," he said softly. "Now I need to know why you did." The sound of rain filled the silence between them. Lena could barely breathe. The man who stood in her doorway wasn't just handsome, he was intimidatingly composed. He had that kind of stillness that felt like a storm hiding behind glass. His eyes were dark, sharp, observant. They didn't just look at her, they searched her. "Who are you?" Lena finally managed to say, her voice trembling. He stepped closer, setting his umbrella against the wall, not breaking eye contact. The scent of rain and something expensive, leather, spice, and danger, filled the room. "You have my wallet," he said simply. "You looked inside." She hesitated. I was going to return it tomorrow." "I swear." "I didn't mean, you saw the photo." Her breath hitched. "Yes, but I didn't. And the card." He wasn't accusing. He was measuring her, watching how her fear unfolded. She nodded, heart pounding. "I was just curious. I've never seen anything like it before. Who are you?" He studied her face for a moment, then turned to one of his men. "Leave us." The men hesitated, clearly not comfortable leaving him alone with her, but one sharp glance from him sent them outside. The door closed behind them. Now it was just the two of them. The rain. And the silence. He stepped closer until there was only a few feet between them. When he spoke, his voice was lower, almost careful. "My name is Adrian Caro." The name hit her like a quiet explosion. She'd heard that surname before, whispered in the back rooms of Greyford, in the kind of tone that made people lower their voices and look over their shoulders. Rumors. Stories. The Caro Syndicate, a family that owned half the city, from luxury real estate to underground operations no one dared mention out loud. Lena swallowed hard. "Caro like the—" "Yes," he interrupted softly. "That Caro." He watched her reaction, the flicker of recognition, the fear. Then something in his eyes softened, just for a second. "You shouldn't have touched it," he said. Again, almost regretful. "But I can tell you didn't mean harm." Lena's voice cracked. "Then why? Why are you here? Why send cars? Why scare me like that?" He tilted his head slightly, as if the question itself amused him. "Because that wallet contains something that doesn't just belong to me," he said. "It belongs to a part of my world that doesn't forgive curiosity." Her stomach dropped. "Are you saying someone's after me?" Adrian's jaw tightened. He didn't answer, which was an answer. He moved to the window, his silhouette framed against the city, lights blurred by rain. "You were seen with it," he said. "They won't care that it was an accident." She felt the room spin slightly. "Then what do I do?" He turned back toward her, his voice calm but commanding. "You do nothing. You stay quiet. You forget what you saw. And until I decide it's safe, you don't go anywhere alone." Lena blinked. "What?" "You're saying you're going to watch me?" He took a step closer, his tone shifting, not cold now, but protective, almost possessive. "I'm saying I'm the only reason you'll still be breathing by morning." Her pulse thudded in her throat. There was fear in her, yes, but something else too. Something about his certainty, his voice, the way his gaze didn't waver. Adrian looked down at her, studying her like she was a puzzle he hadn't decided whether to solve or protect. "You found something you were never supposed to find, Lena," he said quietly. "And now, you belong in my world." The rain eased, but the night didn't quiet. It felt like the city itself was holding its breath, as if Greyford knew something dangerous had shifted in its rhythm. Lena stood frozen by the window, her mind spinning with Adrian Caro words. "You belong in my world." They echoed in her head like a sentence, like a promise, like both. Adrian moved through her apartment with the quiet precision of someone used to taking control of any space he entered. He noticed the chipped mug on the table, the half-empty jar of instant coffee, the stack of unpaid bills tucked under a magnet on the fridge. Without judgment, but with awareness. Every detail of her life, absorbed in seconds. "You live alone," he said, more of a statement than a question. Lena nodded slowly. "Yes. For now." He turned toward her, that faint, unreadable expression still lingering. "Not anymore." Her heart stuttered. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means someone already knows who you are," he said. "And if they reach you before I do, it won't end well." She shook her head, stepping back. "This doesn't make sense. I didn't do anything. I found a wallet in the street." Adrian's eyes darkened. "You think accidents happen in my world?" His voice wasn't raised, but it carried something heavier, authority. Lena felt herself trembling, not just from fear but from the strange gravity he carried with every word. "Then what was I supposed to do?" she whispered. Adrian's expression softened, just slightly. "Nothing," he said. "You were supposed to walk past it." Silence. The rain finally stopped. The world outside seemed too still. Then a sound. Not from the street. From inside the building. Adrian's gaze snapped toward the hallway. In an instant, he reached into his coat, not pulling a weapon, but pressing a small earpiece to his ear. "Unit 3, report," he murmured. A crackle of static. Then a voice. Movement at the rear entrance. 2 targets. Armed. Lena froze. Targets? Adrian's calm cracked for the first time, his composure sharpened into focus. "Get away from the window," he said quietly. She obeyed without question. The next few seconds felt endless. Adrian moved with inhuman control. No panic, no hesitation, just efficiency. He pulled her toward the narrow hallway between the kitchen and the bedroom. "Do you have the back exit?" She shook her head. "No. Just the stairs." "Then stay behind me," he said. Outside, the hum of engines. A door slammed. Then, glass shattered. Lena screamed as something crashed through her living room window, a flash of metal, smoke, the hiss of gas filling the air. Adrian grabbed her arm, pulling her down. "Close your eyes. Breathe through your sleeve." Tears burned her eyes from the sting of the smoke. She coughed, trembling, feeling his arm wrap protectively around her shoulders as chaos unfolded in her own home. Through the haze, she could hear footsteps. Heavy. Fast. Voices. "She's in there. Go." Adrian's voice was cold steel now. "Stay here." "No." "Don't." But he was already gone. A blur of motion disappearing into the smoke, the sound of struggle, a thud, a crash, a muffled cry. Lena pressed herself against the wall, shaking uncontrollably. She could hear everything. The sound of fists, the crack of furniture, a groan that didn't sound human. Then silence. The smoke thinned, and through the broken window, the cold night air seeped back in. Lena opened her eyes and saw Adrian standing there, unscathed, breathing steady. The intruders, 2 of them, lay unconscious at his feet. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. "You see now," he said quietly, "why you can't go back to your normal life." She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. "Who were they?" He walked toward her, brushing a speck of dust off his sleeve, as if it were nothing. "People who thought they could get to me through you." Her pulse pounded in her ears. "Through me? But why me?" He met her gaze, the faintest flicker of emotion crossing his eyes. something between guilt and inevitability. Because, he said softly, the moment you picked up that wallet, you became the only thing they could use against me. The apartment smelled of rain, smoke, and something metallic, fear lingering like a shadow in every corner. Lena still pressed against the wall, trembling, her mind racing. Her life had turned upside down in less than 12 hours. She had picked up a wallet. Now men had tried to break into her home. And Adrian Caro, the man from the photograph, had just single-handedly neutralized them. She swallowed, her throat dry. What happens now?" she whispered. Adrian's eyes darkened, scanning the room with that unnerving precision that made her feel exposed under his gaze. "Now," he said slowly, "you have a choice." She frowned, confusion turning to fear. "A choice? You're serious?" He nodded. "Yes. You can either continue your life as if none of this happened and risk them coming back." His voice dropped to a lower, almost intimate tone. "Or you come with me, and I make sure you're safe." Lena's pulse raced. Safe? From what? From people who don't hesitate to kill. She laughed nervously, a hollow sound. "Safe? You just said they tried to break in. I'm not going anywhere with you." Adrian's expression didn't change, but his tone sharpened. "Then they'll come again. And next time it won't be a warning." Her stomach churned. "I don't even know you." "You know enough," he countered. "You saw my wallet. You saw my photo. And they know you have it. That makes you part of my world whether you like it or not." Lena pressed her hands to her face, tears threatening to spill. Her mind screamed that running was her only option, yet somewhere deep inside, a flicker of understanding pulsed. You can protect me?" she asked, voice barely audible. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the faint warmth radiating from him. "I can," he said quietly, "but not from inside that apartment." Her gaze flicked to the broken window, the rain streaking down the glass, and the two men still unconscious on the street below. She realized he wasn't bluffing. He had the means, the skill, and the willingness. "And if I say yes?" she asked, her voice trembling. Adrian's lips curved into the faintest, almost imperceptible smile. "Then you stay alive. But you also enter a world you can't leave." Lena's pulse thudded so loudly it was almost deafening. "And if I say no?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out the wallet. He held it between them like a bridge or a warning. "Then you keep it," he said calmly, "and you wait for them to return. Either way, you've already lost your choice." The weight of his words pressed against her chest. Her instincts screamed escape. But the reality was clear. The moment she had picked up that wallet, her life had been claimed by forces far bigger than her. And yet, beneath the fear, something else stirred. Curiosity. Intrigue. The undeniable draw of a man who could both terrify and protect in the same heartbeat. She took a shaky breath. "Fine," she said. "I'll go with you." Adrian nodded once, approving. "Good. But first, you need to trust me completely. No questions. No hesitation. If you falter, you won't make it." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "And you trust me?" she asked softly. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he extended his hand. "You will," he said. "By the time I'm done with you, you'll have no other choice." Lena stared at the hand, her heart caught between fear, desire, and the impossible weight of what she had just agreed to. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the city felt darker, heavier, as if it knew something unstoppable had begun. She reached out, and the moment her fingers touched his, a wave of tension and electricity surged through her. Her life had just changed forever. The engine of the sleek black car purred like a predator as Adrian slid into the driver's seat and gestured for Lena to get in. Her hands trembled as she closed the door, the weight of what she had agreed to settling on her shoulders like stone. "Where are we going?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Adrian didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the road ahead, sharp and calculating, scanning the city with the awareness of a man who controlled every corner of it. The streets of Greyford had changed in the night. The rain had left the asphalt slick, neon lights reflecting like shards of glass. Cars passed, pedestrians hurried, but none dared meet Adrian's gaze as he drove. Lena noticed that it was subtle, but it spoke volumes. "You run the city?" she finally asked. He glanced at her, one eyebrow raised. "Not yet," he said. "I control more than most people even know exists. And everything you just stumbled into is part of it." Her stomach churned. "And the people outside my apartment, the ones who tried to get in?" His jaw tightened. "They were testing the waters. They wanted to see if you'd be weak. They underestimated you and me." The car glided silently through dark alleys and empty streets, each turn revealing a part of the city Lena had never known. Neon signs flickered, graffiti marked walls, and yet every shadow seemed purposeful, controlled. She realized she was witnessing another world entirely, one that ran parallel to the ordinary city, a world of whispers, fear, and unseen power. "Why me?" she asked softly, almost to herself. Adrian's eyes flicked to her, just enough for her to catch the intensity there. "Because you saw something no one else was meant to see. You touched something no one else could touch. And now you're marked." She shivered, not just from the cold, but from the weight of his words. "Marked?" "Yes," he said simply. "Not everyone gets a choice. But you got one. And that makes you dangerous." Her mind whirled. Dangerous? Her? She was just a girl delivering food, living a quiet life. And yet, here she was, trapped in a car with a man who moved through the world like a storm and whispered power in every word. The car turned onto a long bridge overlooking the city. The skyline stretched endlessly, lights shimmering on the river below. Lena pressed her forehead to the glass, trying to comprehend it all. "Where are we going?" she asked again. Adrian's hands tightened on the wheel, his knuckles white. "To where you'll learn what it means to survive and to belong." Silence fell, thick and tense. Lena realized the city looked different from this height, beautiful, deadly, almost alive. She understood now. Adrian's world wasn't just dangerous. It was seductive. Her heart raced. Fear, awe, and something else. Something she wasn't ready to name. "And if I don't want to belong," she whispered. Adrian didn't answer. Instead, he turned down a narrow, hidden street. The buildings closed in, shadows swallowing them, the neon lights replaced by darkness and the occasional flicker of a street lamp. "Then," he said, voice low, almost a growl, "you'll have nowhere to hide." Lena swallowed hard. The truth hit her. The moment she had picked up that wallet, she had stepped into a life she could never walk away from. And as the car glided further into the shadows, she realized one terrifying, undeniable fact. She was already falling into his world. The black car slipped into a secluded alley, so narrow that Lena's stomach clenched. Every shadow seemed to stretch toward them, every sound amplified. She swallowed hard, realizing she was completely at Adrian's mercy. The car stopped before a tall iron gate, almost invisible under the overgrown ivy. Adrian pressed a hidden panel beside it, and with a soft click, the gate swung open silently. "Welcome to your new reality," he said, his voice calm but heavy with authority. The driveway led to a sprawling mansion, more fortress than home. Stone walls rose high, windows darkened, and yet the entire place radiated wealth, danger, and precision. Lena's mouth went dry. "This is yours?" she asked, awe and fear twisting together. Adrian didn't answer immediately. He parked, killing the engine. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. "It's temporary. Until you understand what it means to survive." From the shadows, figures emerged, men and women in sleek black suits, eyes sharp, movements deliberate. They didn't speak, didn't greet, merely watched. Lena felt their gaze like a physical weight. "Who are they?" she asked, voice small. "My allies," Adrian said simply. "They'll help you if you follow instructions. They'll protect you if you do exactly as I say." He opened her door and gestured for her to step out. The rain had stopped, leaving the air crisp, smelling of wet stone and roses from the hidden gardens around the mansion.
Lena hesitated.
Every instinct screamed to run, to escape, but her feet obeyed him almost automatically. Inside, the mansion was even more imposing. Marble floors, sweeping staircases, corridors lined with rare books and muted paintings. It felt alive, every corner exuding control and subtle threat. "You'll stay here tonight," Adrian said. "Tomorrow, I'll explain the stakes." Lena's eyes were drawn to a wall of screens in a small study, live footage of streets, alleys, and buildings she recognized. Her apartment building, the streets outside, the city itself. "You're watching everything," she whispered. "Everything that matters," he said. She swallowed hard, suddenly understanding the enormity of what she had stumbled into. "And the people outside my apartment? Gone," he said, almost casually.
"For now."
"But the moment they think you're vulnerable again, they'll return." A tense silence fell. Lena shivered, not only from fear but from the undeniable pull of the man in front of her. His presence was magnetic, terrifying, and thrilling all at once. "You need rest," he said. "Tomorrow we begin. You'll learn why you're here, and why you'll survive only if you trust me completely." As Lena followed him to a guest room on the second floor, she realized the full truth. This was no longer a night she could survive by hiding. This was a night that had changed her life forever. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the mansion, and the unshakable thought crawling through her mind. "I am in a world I don't understand, and I am utterly captivated by the man who brought me here." Morning came slowly, but the mansion felt timeless, its walls absorbing light without giving warmth. Lena awoke to silence, the faint scent of polished wood and old leather filling her senses. She sat up, realizing the enormity of her new reality. She wasn't just hiding. She was trapped in a world of power, danger, and rules she couldn't yet comprehend. Adrian entered without knocking. The soft click of his shoes on the marble floor made her heart leap. "You're awake," he said, voice calm, commanding. "Yes," she whispered, still stiff from the night's tension. "Good." He paused, scanning her as if she were a chess piece. "Today, you learn the rules of survival. You need them, or you won't make it past the first week." Lena's stomach twisted. "Rules? What rules?" "You live in a world that doesn't forgive mistakes. People like me don't just exist, we dominate. And in my world, everything has consequences." He motioned for her to follow, leading her through corridors that seemed endless, doors opening into rooms filled with screens, maps, and surveillance footage of the city. "Rule 1, he said, stopping before a massive display. "Never underestimate danger. Your curiosity brought you here, but it could also get you killed." Lena swallowed. "And if I break a rule?" Adrian's eyes darkened, sharp as knives. "Then the consequences are yours alone. No one else will save you." He walked closer, and she noticed something terrifying, yet magnetic in his gaze. "Rule 2. Trust no one outside this mansion. Friends, strangers, everyone has a motive. You think the wallet was an accident? You were seen the moment you picked it up. That makes you part of a war you don't understand yet." Her pulse raced. Fear mixed with a strange adrenaline, the same force that had made her follow him here last night. "Rule 3, he continued, softer now, almost intimate. "You must trust me completely. Not because I demand it, but because without that trust you will die. And you will never survive by relying on yourself alone." Lena's throat tightened. She realized the depth of his words. The man wasn't just dangerous. He was in total control, and yet she wanted to trust him. Adrian moved even closer, the air between them thick with tension, charged with an unspoken energy. Rule 4. You cannot fall for me. She laughed nervously, almost bitterly. Oh, so now you give me rules for my heart too? Not rules, he corrected, his voice low and hypnotic. Warnings. Feelings are weaknesses. And in my world, weaknesses get exploited. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She had never felt fear and fascination in the same heartbeat, yet here it was, consuming her completely. Finally, he said, straightening, Rule 5. You survive by understanding the stakes before they hit you. That wallet, that mistake, it has already changed everything. And from this moment on, nothing will be the same. Lena swallowed hard. Her mind raced, trying to absorb the rules, the danger, and the man standing so close that she could feel his presence like a gravitational force. And she realized she wasn't just being trained to survive. She was being drawn into a world she couldn't escape and a man she couldn't resist. Are you ready? He asked, his dark eyes locking onto hers. She hesitated. Part of her screamed to run. Another part whispered that she already had. Yes, she said, her voice barely audible. I'm ready. Adrian nodded once, almost approvingly.
Good.
Then welcome to my world. And with that, the mansion seemed to pulse around them, alive, dangerous, and intoxicating. Lena had barely finished her breakfast when the mansion's silence was shattered. A sharp buzz echoed from the security panel near the main door. Adrian, standing beside her, didn't flinch. Already, she whispered, fear tightening her chest. He didn't answer. Instead, his hand moved instinctively to a hidden holster under his coat. Stay behind me, he said, his voice calm but deadly. Lena's heart pounded in her ears as they moved silently toward the entryway. The security panel flashed red, motion detected in the outer courtyard. Adrian peered through the surveillance monitors, his expression darkening. 2 intruders, he said quietly. Unregistered. They don't know what they're walking into. Lena's stomach churned. Unregistered? Are you saying they want to hurt us? He didn't respond immediately. His eyes never left the screen. They're testing us, seeing how far they can push. That wallet has already made you a target. Her pulse raced. She swallowed hard. The thrill of fear mixed with something deeper. Adrenaline, attraction, the undeniable pull of being in his world. What do we do? She asked, her voice trembling. Adrian's hand brushed hers, almost a touch, almost accidental, but it sent a jolt straight to her chest. We intercept. Quietly. In moments, they were moving through hidden corridors and stairwells Lena had never noticed before. Every step felt like entering a shadowy battlefield.
Outside.
She saw movement through the partially open windows. 2 men scaling the perimeter walls, sleek, precise, and deadly. Adrian's eyes met hers for the briefest second. Ready. Her throat closed. But something inside her, a mix of fear, excitement, and trust, said yes. The intruders entered the courtyard, unaware of the cameras, unaware of the traps, unaware that Adrian had already anticipated every move. Lena gasped as he moved, fast, silent, like a shadow made flesh. Within seconds, both men were neutralized, sprawled on the ground, unconscious but unharmed. How? She began, stunned. How do you do that? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, brushing her hair back from her wet face. I told you, he murmured. In my world, survival is everything. And now, you've seen a glimpse. Her chest heaved. You will never be safe outside of my protection, he said softly, dangerously. But here, you can learn. You can survive. And perhaps you can even thrive. Her mind raced, fear, awe, and the undeniable pull toward him. Lena realized the truth. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about power, attraction, and being pulled into a world she could never leave. And as she looked up at Adrian, standing in the rain-soaked courtyard with the city lights reflecting off his sharp eyes, she understood. This man could destroy her, or make her stronger than she ever imagined. The mansion seemed alive around them, walls echoing power, shadows shifting like sentinels, and the faint whisper of rain against the windows reminding her that the outside world was dangerous, unforgiving, and already hunting her. The mansion was quiet once more, but Lena's heart refused to calm. Her hands shook as she followed Adrian down a long corridor lined with shadows and flickering lights. Every step seemed deliberate, every sound amplified in the silence. "You need to understand something," Adrian said, his voice low, almost a growl. "Fear is a weapon. Desire is a weakness. And in my world, you will need to control both." Lena stopped, staring at him. "Control both," she whispered. "You mean like you?" He smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Exactly," he said. "I use them. I bend people, situations, even entire cities to my will. And now you must learn to bend yourself the same way, or you won't last." Her chest tightened. The thrill of fear mixed with an undeniable attraction. "And what if I can't?" Adrian stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Then you die," he said simply. "Or worse, you become part of the problem." Her pulse raced, but beneath the fear, something stirred. Curiosity, excitement, something dangerous and forbidden. He led her to a training room, not ordinary but filled with simulations, screens, targets, holograms projecting threats, and tools she didn't recognize. "This is where you learn," he said. "Every move you make can save your life or end it. Every decision counts. Every glance, every hesitation, every heartbeat can be the difference between survival and failure." Lena's fingers brushed over the equipment, her mind reeling. "I'm not ready for this," she whispered. Adrian's hand caught hers, firm, commanding, pulling her into his side. "You will be ready," he said softly, almost intimately. "Or you won't live to regret it." Her breath hitched. She felt the magnetism of him. Dangerous, magnetic, all-consuming. Every instinct screamed to resist, yet her body betrayed her with an involuntary shiver. "Lesson 1, he said, motioning to the first simulation, "is learning to move without fear." Lena hesitated at the holographic figure that lunged toward her. "It's just a simulation," he murmured, voice brushing against her ear. "But imagine it isn't. Imagine the stakes are real." Her heart raced as adrenaline surged. The hologram attacked again, faster this time, and she moved instinctively, narrowly avoiding a strike. Adrian watched, silent, his eyes dark, intense. "Good," he said finally, stepping closer, his body brushing hers. "Now, learn to control your fear and your desire at the same time." Lena's breath caught. The words were not just instruction. They were a warning and a temptation. The air between them was thick with tension, electric, dangerous, intoxicating. "Focus," he whispered, "or you will fail, and fail means pain. Both yours and mine." She met his gaze, the danger of the lesson mirroring the danger in his eyes. And she realized the truth. Survival wasn't just physical anymore. It was emotional. It was psychological. It was about trusting, or being consumed by, the man who had pulled her into a world she could never escape. Her body tensed. Her mind raced. And yet she knew, deep down, that every fiber of her being was impossibly drawn to him. Adrian's lips curved into a faint, unreadable smile. "Good," he said, voice low and deliberate. "Lesson 1 begins. And by the end you'll either be ready, or you'll know fear like never before." Lena's pulse thundered in her ears. She was terrified. She was exhilarated. And she was completely, irrevocably captivated. The morning air was crisp, carrying a faint chill that made Lena pull her jacket tighter around her. She followed Adrian through a hidden exit behind the mansion, a narrow stone path that led into the city. Every shadow seemed to twitch with unseen life, every street lamp a sentinel watching them. "Remember," Adrian said, voice low, eyes scanning the streets. "Out there, no one is just a passerby. Everyone is a threat, or an opportunity. You decide which, and you survive." Her hands trembled slightly, but her curiosity outweighed her fear. "And if I make a mistake?" she asked, her voice barely audible. He didn't answer with words. He merely glanced at her, dark eyes sharp, measuring, commanding. She understood without him speaking. Mistakes in his world weren't forgiven. They moved silently, Adrian leading with a precision that seemed almost inhuman. Lena struggled to keep pace, her heart hammering in her chest. "First lesson outside," he murmured. "Observe. Predict. Move before you're forced to react. Fear will slow you. Desire will distract you. Control both." The streets of Greyford were alive with morning chaos. Cars honking, vendors shouting, people rushing, yet none of it touched Adrian and Lena. It was as if they moved through a separate layer of reality, one only they could perceive. Suddenly, a man stepped out from an alley, blocking their path. He was tall, his coat wet from the remnants of rain, a knife glinting faintly in his hand. "Stop right there," the man hissed, voice low and menacing. Lena froze. Panic surged, but Adrian's presence anchored her. "Step aside," he said smoothly, almost lazily, "or leave him behind." The man lunged. In an instant, Adrian was in motion, fast, fluid, precise. He disarmed the attacker without harming him, leaving him unconscious on the wet pavement. Lena gasped, adrenaline surging. "How did you focus?" Adrian said, his tone sharp. He brushed a wet strand of hair from her face, almost tenderly, yet the danger in his eyes never wavered. "Remember your lesson. Observe, predict, move before you're forced to react. Every second counts." Her pulse raced, and something inside her stirred, a mix of fear, exhilaration, and an unexplainable pull toward him. I think I understand," she whispered. "Good," he said, voice low, almost intimate. "Because out here, understanding is survival. And survival is the only way you'll ever be free." As they continued through the city streets, Lena realized the truth. The world she had known, the quiet life she had lived, had been swept away the moment she picked up that wallet. And at her side was a man who was both her protector and her danger, a man whose eyes promised both salvation and destruction. She swallowed hard, feeling the weight of it all. "I'm not just surviving," she thought. "I'm falling deeper, and I may never escape." The city stretched before them, lights shimmering on wet asphalt, shadows twisting between buildings, a labyrinth of power, danger, and secrets. And Lena knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning. The city felt heavier as night approached, shadows stretching across the streets like fingers reaching for anyone unprepared. Lena and Adrian moved silently, the glow of distant neon reflecting off the slick asphalt. Every instinct screamed danger, every nerve alert. "We're not alone," Adrian murmured, his voice low, almost a growl. "Stay close. Watch everything." Lena followed, heart hammering. She had seen Adrian handle threats with lethal precision before, but the thought of facing unknown enemies in the dark streets made her pulse spike. A sudden movement caught her eye, a figure stepping out from the shadows, calm and deliberate. Lena froze. "Who is that?" she whispered. Adrian's eyes narrowed, every muscle tense. "Watch," he said. The figure approached, slow, confident, unmistakably skilled. But instead of attacking, the person stopped a few feet away and raised a hand in a gesture of peace. "Adrian Caro," the voice said, smooth and steady. "I think we share a common interest." Adrian's expression was unreadable, yet Lena felt the tension in his body shift slightly, a silent acknowledgement. "And you are?" he asked, his tone cautious but controlled. "Call me Elias," the stranger replied. "I've been watching. You've brought her into this world, but she can be an asset if you're willing to train her properly." Lena's eyes widened. An ally? Or another player in this dangerous game? Her pulse raced. "Why help me?" she asked softly, voice trembling. Elias smiled faintly, a shadow of humor flickering in his eyes. "Because if she survives, she can change everything. And because some of us see value in protecting those who would otherwise be consumed." Adrian stepped slightly in front of her, protective yet alert. "Value?" he repeated, dark eyes locked on Elias. "She's not a pawn. She's a learning. And I will not have anyone putting her at unnecessary risk." Elias raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. "I'm not here to challenge you, but I've been tracking those who are after her, the same ones who tried your apartment. They won't stop, and they're clever." Lena swallowed hard. Her fear mingled with the unshakable thrill of being caught in this web. "Then can we trust him?" she asked Adrian quietly. Adrian's gaze flicked to her for a brief moment, sharp, assessing, before returning to Elias. "For now," he said simply. "But every ally has a price." Elias nodded once, almost imperceptibly. "Agreed. But the night is long, and danger is closer than you think." Lena felt a chill run down her spine. The city around them had transformed. Every alley, every shadow, every sound was alive with potential threats. And now, another player had entered the game, someone who might save her, or bring even more danger. Adrian's hand brushed against hers subtly, grounding her. His presence was both shield and storm. "Stay alert," he murmured. "And remember, trust is earned, not given." Lena's heart thudded in her chest. Fear, adrenaline, and a strange, thrilling attraction to Adrian all collided inside her. She realized the truth. In this city, alliances were fragile, danger was constant, and the man beside her was both her protector and her temptation. And as Elias melted into the shadows, leaving only his warning behind, Lena understood. This was just the beginning of a war she could not run from, and a world she could never leave. The night air pressed heavy on Lena's shoulders as she followed Adrian through a maze of narrow alleys. The city felt alive. Every flickering light, every distant shout, every shadow seemed to pulse with unseen menace. "Something's off," Adrian murmured, voice low, almost a growl. "Stay close. Watch everything." Lena's pulse raced, every nerve on fire. She had trained under Adrian's guidance, observed his movements, and tried to absorb every lesson, but the stakes had never been this real. Ahead, the alley opened into a dimly lit square. A lone figure stood at its center, casually leaning against a lamppost. "Easy pickings," Adrian whispered, eyes narrowing. Lena's stomach twisted. She didn't like the look of this. The calm before the storm was suffocating. Suddenly, movement erupted from the shadows. Figures she hadn't noticed before surrounded them, silent, coordinated, deadly. "Trap," Adrian growled, stepping in front of her. Lena's breath caught. Fear surged, but so did adrenaline. She remembered his lessons: observe, predict, move before forced to react. "Focus," he hissed. "Remember what I taught you." The attackers advanced, knives gleaming under the sparse light. Lena's hands shook, but she mirrored Adrian's movements as best she could, ducking instinctively when one lunged. Adrian moved like a phantom, disarming, incapacitating, neutralizing threats with lethal precision, yet without unnecessary cruelty. "Good," he murmured when Lena managed a well-timed dodge. "You're learning." Her chest heaved. Fear mingled with a strange, intoxicating thrill. The danger was real. The stakes were life or death. And through it all, Adrian's presence was magnetic, grounding her even as chaos erupted around them. "You're ready for this," he said, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. But remember, fear is a weapon, Lena. Use it, control it, or it will consume you. The attackers, seeing Adrian's skill and coordination, hesitated, giving Lena a chance to move with him. She realized for the first time the depth of his world. Strategy, danger, control, power. Keep moving, he urged, hand brushing hers briefly, sending a jolt through her chest. The city isn't just a battlefield. It's a lesson. Survive it, and you survive in my world. They escaped the ambush, slipping into shadowed side streets where the attackers could know. Longer follow. Lena's heart pounded in her ears, her body trembling from fear and adrenaline. That was real, she whispered. I almost didn't make it. Adrian's gaze softened, just for a fraction of a second. You did, he said quietly. And that's why you're here. To survive. To learn. To belong. The air between them was thick. Tension, danger, and something else. A pull Lena couldn't ignore. A mixture of fear and desire she had no right to feel, yet could not resist. Tomorrow, Adrian continued, voice low, commanding, we train harder. The next threat won't hesitate. Neither will you. Lena realized the truth as she followed him back into the safety of the mansion. She was no longer an outsider. She was a participant in a dangerous, intoxicating game, and the man guiding her was as irresistible as he was lethal. The city outside was silent now, but Lena knew it was only temporary. The real war had just begun. The mansion was quiet, almost eerily so, as Lena followed Adrian up the sweeping staircase. The night outside had deepened, shadows stretching across the marble floors like creeping fingers. She could still feel the adrenaline from the trap, the fear, the danger, but now another feeling stirred, curiosity and something more. Why are you showing me this world? She asked quietly, voice trembling. Why me? Adrian stopped at the balcony overlooking the city. Neon lights flickered below, the wet streets shimmering like glass. He leaned against the railing, his silhouette sharp, commanding, almost untouchable. Why you? He repeated, voice low, almost intimate. Because from the moment you touched that wallet, you became unavoidable. The world can't erase you, and neither can I. Her chest tightened. The words were dangerous, magnetic. What do you mean, unavoidable? He turned to face her fully, eyes dark and intense. You entered my world by accident, he said, but you stayed by choice. And now you're part of it whether you like it or not. She felt herself drawn in despite the fear. I didn't even know this world existed. He stepped closer, and Lena could feel the heat of his presence. Most don't, he murmured. But this world isn't for everyone. It's only for those who survive and for those who matter to me. Lena's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed danger, yet she couldn't look away. Matter to you? She whispered, barely audible. Adrian's expression softened. Just slightly, a flicker of vulnerability hidden behind the mask of control. Yes, he admitted quietly, almost reluctantly. You're not like the others. You've already faced fear, danger, uncertainty, and you've endured. That earns my attention. Her breath hitched. His gaze was intense, a mix of command and something she couldn't name, something dangerously personal. But don't mistake this for weakness, he continued, voice firm. Feelings are dangerous in my world. And yet, I feel them anyway. And you provoke them. Lena's heart thundered. Fear, desire, and a forbidden thrill collided inside her. I don't understand, she whispered. I shouldn't feel anything like this. Adrian reached out, brushing her hair from her face. His fingers lingered near her cheek, gentle but deliberate. Feelings don't ask permission, he said softly. They simply exist. And in this world, they can be both a weapon and a curse. She shivered, caught between desire and fear. And me? She asked, voice trembling. Am I a weapon or a curse? He leaned closer, his eyes searching hers, unreadable and magnetic. Both, he said quietly. And that's what makes you dangerous and unforgettable. The city lights flickered below them as silence settled, thick and charged. Lena realized the truth. She was no longer merely surviving. She was entangled in a dangerous dance with a man whose world could destroy her and whose presence she couldn't resist. Tomorrow, Adrian said finally, stepping back slightly, we push further. You'll face challenges that will test your fear, your trust, and your heart. Lena's lips parted, breath caught, heart pounding. She knew this was no ordinary night, no ordinary danger. It was a confession, a revelation, and the first thread of something far more powerful than either of them could deny. She shivered, knowing one thing for certain. Her life, her heart, and her future were now bound to Adrian Caro's dangerous, irresistible world. The city's night air was thick with tension, every shadow whispering danger. Lena followed Adrian through a labyrinth of backstreets, her pulse racing. The lesson of the trap still burned in her mind. Observe, predict, move before forced to react. Tonight, Adrian murmured, voice low, you take the first step into their world. You face danger without me watching directly. Trust your instincts and your training. Lena's stomach nodded. Fear collided with excitement, her adrenaline surging as she tried to steady her shaking hands. Without you? Are you sure? She asked, doubt and thrill tangled in her voice. Adrian's dark gaze met hers. Intense, commanding, magnetic. Yes, he said. It's time you prove you can survive. If you fail, it will be a lesson you'll never forget. The destination was a derelict warehouse on the edge of the city. Neon lights flickered in the distance, painting wet walls with red and blue reflections. Lena felt every shadow watching, every sound amplified in the silence. Remember, Adrian whispered, stepping close enough that she could feel his warmth. Fear is your weapon. Control it. Use it. And no matter what, keep your mind sharper than your heart. She nodded, swallowing hard, the gravity of his words sinking deep. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark, silent, foreboding. Lena's heart pounded as she slipped inside. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and oil. Figures moved in the shadows, silent, alert. She recognized the danger immediately. Adrian had trained her to notice, to anticipate, to react. A man stepped forward, blocking her path. His eyes were cold, calculating. Who are you? He demanded, voice sharp. Lena froze for a moment, fear lashing through her, then remembered Adrian's lessons. She straightened, gaze steady, body tense but controlled. I'm no one you underestimate, she said, her voice strong despite the tremor in her hands. The man lunged. Lena dodged instinctively, recalling the simulations and lessons. Every movement was deliberate, precise, flowing, a dance of survival and control. From the shadows, another figure advanced. Lena's breath hitched, but she didn't falter. She remembered Adrian's words, observe, predict, move before forced to react. Minutes stretched into an eternity as she navigated the warehouse, each challenge testing her fear, her skill, her trust in herself and in Adrian. Finally, she emerged into the main chamber. The leader of the attackers waited, expression unreadable, but Lena saw the flicker of recognition in his eyes. So, she's the one, he asked, voice low, almost incredulous. Lena's pulse thundered, but she stood tall. Yes, she said quietly. I'm the one who will survive. The tension in the room was electric. Every shadow seemed alive, every heartbeat synchronized with hers. Fear, adrenaline, and a strange, intoxicating thrill coursed through her veins. She realized something terrifying and exhilarating. She was no longer just Adrian's protégé. She was becoming a force in her own right, and her connection to him only made her more dangerous. Outside, the city lights gleamed like silent witnesses. Inside, the warehouse held its breath, the enemy unaware that a new player had entered the game, someone both vulnerable and unstoppable. And Lena knew this night would change everything. Not just her survival, but her heart, her trust, and the dangerous allure of the man who had pulled her into this world. The mansion felt colder than usual when Lena returned, the weight of the night pressing down on her shoulders. Adrian stood near the balcony, gazing out at the city, his posture rigid, unreadable. The shadows seemed longer tonight, sharper, almost threatening. "You did well," he said quietly as she approached, voice low and measured. "Better than I expected." Lena forced a small smile, though her stomach still twisted with adrenaline. "It was intense," she admitted, voice trembling slightly. "I didn't think I could make it." Adrian's eyes didn't meet hers. Instead, he turned suddenly, expression darkening. "And yet," he said, "someone has already compromised us." Her heart skipped. "Compromised us? What do you mean?" "Elias," Adrian said, his voice low, almost a growl. "He wasn't entirely truthful. He has his own agenda, and he's manipulated your path tonight." Lena's stomach dropped. Shock, fear, and disbelief collided inside her. "You mean he set me up?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Adrian stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. "Yes," he said, intensity blazing in his dark eyes. "He wanted to test your limits, and to see if you could be used as a pawn. He underestimated you and me." Lena's hands shook. The realization hit her. The very ally she thought she could trust had been a threat in disguise. I didn't see it," she admitted, voice breaking slightly. I thought he was helping us." Adrian reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. His touch was gentle, yet commanding, grounding her in a storm of fear and confusion. "You're learning," he murmured, voice low and intimate. "But the world we inhabit doesn't forgive mistakes. And trust is earned, not given." Lena swallowed hard, feeling both fear and the undeniable pull toward him. "So what now?" she asked, trembling. "Do we confront him?" Adrian's lips curved into the faintest, almost imperceptible smile. "Not yet," he said. "First, you need to understand how deep the betrayal goes. Second, you need to trust that I will protect you, even when the enemy is closest." Her pulse thundered in her ears. Fear, adrenaline, and attraction collided, making her feel both vulnerable and alive. I trust you," she whispered, her voice barely audible, yet filled with conviction. Adrian's eyes softened just slightly. "Good," he said, voice low, almost a promise. "Because soon we will have to strike back. And when we do, you'll need to be ready to face every danger and every desire head-on." Lena realized the truth. The betrayal had shaken her, but it also cemented her place beside him. Fear and desire, trust and danger, all tangled together in a world she could never escape. And as Adrian pulled her close, the city lights glittering behind them like distant stars, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was completely entwined in his world, and in his heart, whether she wanted it or not. The mansion hummed with quiet intensity. Every shadow seemed alive, every flickering light a reminder of the danger lurking beyond its walls. Lena stood beside Adrian in the war room, walls lined with screens showing live feeds of the city, the streets, and the movements of those who had tried to manipulate them. "Tonight," Adrian said, voice low and commanding, "we take back control. We turn their plans into their downfall." Lena's heart raced. Fear and excitement mingled with an undeniable thrill. "Are you sure I'm ready for this?" she asked, doubt and adrenaline weaving through her words. Adrian's eyes locked onto hers, dark, sharp, and magnetic. "You're more ready than you know," he said. "And you'll see how far you've come. Every lesson, every fear, every moment of trust, it leads to this." The plan was precise. Every move calculated, every risk measured. Lena's role was pivotal. She would infiltrate a secondary location, gather critical information, and signal Adrian when the opportunity to strike was perfect. As they moved through the mansion toward the hidden exit, Adrian brushed a hand against hers. "Remember," he murmured, close enough for her to feel the heat of his breath, "fear is your weapon. Desire is your distraction. Control both, and nothing can touch you." Lena swallowed hard, feeling both the weight of responsibility and the electric pull between them. The city streets were slick with rain, neon reflections shimmering like fractured glass. Lena's pulse thundered as she approached the target building, every shadow a potential threat. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Figures moved in patterns she recognized, subtle, coordinated, deadly. Lena's training kicked in. Every step, every glance, every heartbeat was measured. Observe. Predict. Move before forced to react. Minutes felt like hours. Lena gathered the information, her body tense but precise. She felt the thrill of fear, the surge of adrenaline, and the silent, magnetic presence of Adrian watching from afar. The final signal was simple. Lena pressed the hidden transmitter. Within moments, Adrian's team moved with deadly precision, neutralizing threats, reclaiming control, and turning the tables on those who had tried to manipulate them. Lena's chest heaved as she stepped back into the rain-soaked streets. The mission was complete. She had survived, executed her part flawlessly, and proved her worth in Adrian's world. Adrian appeared beside her in an instant, silent and commanding. His dark eyes scanned her, measuring, approving. "You did well," he murmured, his voice low and intimate. "Better than I could have hoped." Her pulse raced, part from the danger, part from the undeniable tension between them. "We did it," she whispered, breathless. "We won." Adrian's gaze softened, just enough for Lena to feel it, yet still sharp with the edge of power. "Yes," he said, stepping closer, his presence overwhelming. "And now you understand what it means to survive.
To trust.
To follow the rules of my world and to feel." Lena's breath caught. Fear, desire, and an intoxicating pull to the man beside her collided. She realized the truth. She had not only survived the night, she had embraced a dangerous, thrilling world, and a man who could destroy her or make her feel alive in ways she never imagined. As the rain fell around them, the city glowing beneath their feet, Lena knew one thing with absolute certainty. There was no going back. The enemy had been outmaneuvered. But the game, and the irresistible pull between them, was far from over. The mansion loomed behind them, shadows stretching like silent witnesses to the storm raging outside. Lena's heart pounded, her pulse racing from the chaos of the city, the counterstrike, and the undeniable pull of the man beside her. "This is it," Adrian murmured, voice low and commanding. "One choice, Lena. One moment. One step that will decide everything, your safety, your freedom, and us." She swallowed hard, aware of the weight of his words. The enemies they had outmaneuvered were regrouping, smarter and more dangerous than ever. Lena's training, her fear, her instincts, everything she had learned over the past nights would be put to the ultimate test. "I'm ready," she whispered, though a tremor betrayed her fear. Adrian's gaze softened, magnetic and intense. "No," he said quietly, stepping closer. "You need to be ready, not just to survive, but to choose what your life will be." The city below them stretched into darkness, alive with danger. Lena's mind flashed through every lesson, every trap, every touch, every stolen glance between them. Fear and desire intertwined, each heartbeat a reminder that this man could destroy her or make her feel more alive than ever before. "Go," Adrian commanded, voice low and intimate. Make your choice. Lena stepped forward, eyes scanning the shadows. She could see the approaching threat, dark figures moving with precision and intent. Her hand shook, but her resolve hardened. In that instant, she realized, the choice wasn't just about survival. It was about trust, power, and the man who had pulled her into this dangerous, intoxicating world. I trust you, she said, voice strong, unwavering. Adrian's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Then step into the light, he murmured. Together, they moved forward. Lena's training, her courage, and her connection to Adrian guided her every step. The enemies advanced, but she was no longer the frightened woman who had found a lost wallet hours ago. She was a force, fierce, calculated, and unstoppable. The confrontation was brief, precise, and terrifying. Every movement mattered, every heartbeat counted. And in the end, the threats were neutralized, not destroyed, but warned. The message was clear. This world belonged to them. Breathless, Lena turned to Adrian. Their eyes met, dark, magnetic, and full of unspoken truths. You survived, he said softly. And you chose wisely. Her chest heaved, adrenaline mixing with desire. I don't know what comes next, she admitted, voice trembling. But I know I want to be here. With you. Adrian stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. Then you will, he said, voice low, dangerous, and intimate. Because in this world, in my world, you belong to no one but yourself. And to me if you choose. Lena's breath caught. Fear, passion, and exhilaration collided inside her. She reached out, fingers brushing his hand, a spark igniting between them. The city lights flickered below, the storm finally settling, leaving only calm. And Lena knew, in her heart, that her life had changed forever. She had found a lost wallet, and in the hours that followed, black cars had surrounded her home, danger had stalked her every step, and she had discovered a world of power, trust, and irresistible desire. Her choice was clear, and it had only just begun. Don't miss the next thrilling story on our channel. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon to dive into more romances full of danger, desire, and secrets that will keep you on the edge of your
seat.